Hello there, this is Rom coming back at you with yet another car video. Most men don't have a concept of getting a woman without spending money. Most men don't have a concept of it. You know what? And that's a serious thing because on the video I did yesterday, now I ain't say anything about money. And invariably, somebody came on there talking about no matter what, you got to spend money. And I do what I usually do, especially when it had nothing to do with the conversation. Deleted the comment. I do that. If, like I said, if you don't like it, don't get on here. But then I thought about it actually yesterday. I thought about that afterwards. No, I ain't feel bad about deleting the comment, but I said, a lot of guys don't have a concept of getting a woman, like a woman just handing them the 90. They don't have a concept. They don't have a concept of being broke and getting some, right? Because I thought about that, because I thought about some guys I know right now, like I could text. In fact, I talked with one who women were just handing him the 90. And a lot of times if you even talk about that, they say, well, you got to pay eventually. But here's the problem with those guys who think that. They can only talk about themselves. That's all they can do. They can't talk about somebody else because it's a reality that some men be getting the 90, be getting women, and don't be spending anything. I've known that. Shoot, that's one of the reasons why I promote body game, because I remember I told you at first, before I got into like working out and stuff, oh shoot, I could take women to like plays, take them out to dinner, fancy spending money. And even during that period, the women that I would have sex with, I ain't even take them out. Like there was one woman I dealt with, I ain't spend one penny on her. I ain't spend one penny on her. We ain't never go out. I would just go to her place. And then, I thought about when I really got into body game, right? When I really got into body game, I was still living at home with my grandmother. I was broke. I just didn't. I always talk about 1,000 jobs. This was a period where I wasn't making money like that. I couldn't afford my own place. Yet I had women like crazy. It was during that period I talked about having some women 2 weeks straight, having women pay for the hotel room. They paid for the hotel room. Would have been 3 weeks straight, but the third woman had her own spot. And and I'm still to this moment from yesterday trying to think, well, wait a minute, which women did I had to put out a lot of money just to get with? Like since body game. I never was really thinking about that. And because like I said, even before then, yeah, I would have to spend some money, but I wouldn't get any. But the women I spent money on didn't get any. Might have got a good hug at most. A good hug. But before that, like even during that period, the women I would get with, the couple women I would get with, and I do mean it was a few during that period, I had to, I had to spend anything on her. Like I'm still thinking about that. It's like, well, hold up. Which women did I really have to spend money on? I thought about when I was living in this apartment building in Northwest D.C. I had women just knock on the door. I ain't had to do shit. I was like, well, hold up. Yeah, I have to think hard past a certain point when I would have to spend money. And the thing is, I'm not, I know other men who had to do the same thing. In fact, that's where that term homosexual come from. There's plenty of guys out there don't have money, getting women, getting sex from women, and they ain't spending shit. I've mentioned a few times, I've known a couple guys who were living out their cars. They didn't have money, yet they were getting women. You know? I remember when I was living in an apartment before the place I got now. Remember, I told you when I first moved in, had a woman living up above me, and she had this 5'8" muscular Dominican guy. And that dude wasn't working. Like, I know about it from personal experience, and I know about it from men that I have known up to this second. Like I said, I was talking with somebody last night, and he doesn't have a concept of spending money on women. And we even talked about that for a second. And the reality is, a lot of men do have to spend money. Now let's be real. I can't put them down or say they were a problem. Or I used to think it was a problem, but I have to deal with the reality. The reality is, when you talk about select and non-select, they're going to get different. They're going to get different things, you know. Because there's a group of select men. They would have to have a lot of money and stuff. But as a young man said one time about that, he actually said about that. He said, "Shoot, you shouldn't really call them select. You know, who have a lot of money. They still non-select because they got to spend money to get with the woman." And I was like, wow. And I was thinking about that. I was like, you know what? Because it was like one of my mentors said, he had told a story, you know, how a group of non-select men were getting into it with some select men, saying, "Oh, no, that ain't happening to you," because the select men were saying, "Well, yeah, we getting this, this, and this." And the select men, you know, the non-select men were saying, "Nah, that ain't happening." But all they really saying is that ain't happening for them. Because the sad thing is, most men don't have a concept of a woman trying to holler at them. Look, okay, I went far enough in it. It's not in the first minute and everything. Let's just be raw with it, because I'm raw as car run. They have no concept of a woman just throwing them the pussy. They have no concept of it. That's the only thing that's happened. You know? It's kind of like I said one time, one thing that would be good for every single man, if they could spend one day in the shadow world, you know? Because I was thinking because speaking for myself, I just didn't have the money. I'm serious. Even when I was working, I had enough money just, there was a period where I was, had to live at home. And then even past that, still didn't have the money, was still getting women like crazy. Because even when I was living in this apartment building, I don't know how many of the women I got with in that building. They would just come to my place. I didn't even have to leave my place. I ain't to spend any money. Didn't have to take them out. Had other women, they would spend money on me. You know? They would be the ones spending money. You know? But one of the things that I have to remember is every man doesn't have that experience. Only a small group of men have that experience. Some men have experienced that. But most men haven't experienced that. Most men gotta spend the money or take the woman out, spend a lot of money. The woman might even look at them like, tell them they gotta wait 90 days. Meanwhile, a few men, and I keep saying but these men don't know. I was really, I was like, I gotta really think about that. They don't know. They don't know. They don't have a concept of it. They know they have to, like, present the wallet to get any play, to even get a chance at it. They gotta say, well, they're gonna take a woman to a restaurant and all of that. And it's like I said, sometimes a woman will go with that man to a restaurant, but she don't eat much. She'll get that doggy bag, say, can I get all this in a doggy bag? And the guy's thinking he doing something, and take her out, take her home. Or, well, one, he might take her home, the guy might be there, or take her to some other guy's house. It could be in the hood. Say, oh, nah, this is my cousin. This my cousin. But, and I make light of it, but it's kind of jacked up. It's kind of jacked up. Like, any guys thinking about that, thinking, oh, you got to spend money. And even if you say something like, well, you still got to spend some time. Well, ain't she spending time too? So it's equal. The situation is equal then, so don't bring up time. She's spending her time too. Indeed, some women, they spending more time. They fixing up. Or some women who gonna fix, they will spend their own money, get a meal ready for the guy. That's their time, ain't it? They doing whatever. The guy don't have to do anything. And he could, like I say, he could be broke. He could be broke. He could be living with his family. Because I remember talking with a woman and she just giving this guy some. And this guy was just, he was living in the basement of his family's house. And she said, shoot. I said, how you get with him? And she said, she's easy and she brings beer. I mean, she bringing some stuff, I mean, sometimes you get a lot of women. You get some women with certain men. Right? They'll still have a guy come over, but think about it. He coming over. He ain't spending nothing. I mean, the most he's spending is gas money, but she'll have the refrigerator full. Because I was thinking about one time, this woman had me come over, right? Now, somebody might say, well, you had to drive and all of that. Yeah, but she had a fridge full of stuff just for me. She had a fridge full of stuff. Money she spent. So who spent more money? Me with a little bit of gas? Or her, she had the fridge full. Another woman, she had a whole one of those like deli plates and stuff, big old deli plates from a store. For me. Right? And some other guys probably got some stories like that. Some women may be taking them on vacations, paying for hotel rooms. And shoot, you got some low-key gigolos out there. Low-key gigolos, they get money from the woman. And definitely got hobosexuals. These guys don't even have anything. But they got a woman who got all the money and everything. But the thing is, most men don't have a concept of that. And why not? Well, what do I talk about? Select and non-select. What do I say? That select, non-select thing's a sexual hierarchy. Because, you see, that really gets down to who a woman wants to have sex with. And a lot of guys don't understand that. If a woman wants to have sex with a guy, all he has, there just need to be a spot. And she'll pay. She'll pay for it. She'll pay for the hotel room. Or she'll invite him over. Or if he got his own spot, they'll come over. I remember one woman wanted to come over my place. I was like, I ain't feel. I was like, I ain't gonna lie. I had read her wrong. And I was like, I didn't even feel like being bothered. I was like, no, I don't have any money. Can't take you out. She said, I'll come by. I was like, I don't have any food. I'll bring a sandwich and we can split it. Just like shit. But a lot of guys don't have stories like that. And it's kind of like, not even getting into the sexual shadow world, but a lot of guys need to experience just a woman just wanting to get with them. And not just any woman either, but you'd be surprised how some of these, like, nominally attractive women, I would say nominally attractive, or, I say above average in attractiveness, like you look at her, you wouldn't throw out of bed types, will do that with certain men. See, that's the real issue. Women, they free with certain men, but other men, oh, he gotta have some money, he gotta take them out. But if you at that point, you gotta spend money, how you select? You're not being selected for sex. Because that woman don't really want you. Because a woman, if you gonna spend money, that's like if they can't get the man that they want, they'll take the man spending money, but then that don't mean he gonna get sex. Because how many guys have spent money on a woman, taking her to a fancy place, and at best maybe got a good kiss? And I'm saying at best. Or even if they did get sex, they get that starfish sex. That's something to think about. That is something to think about. And it's something I gotta remember. A lot of guys don't have a concept. They really don't. They don't have a concept of getting a 90 for free. It's jacked up in a way. Because then when a guy, they'll think something's wrong with the guy, but come on now. You could look up homosexuals. And if you know some guys, like I said, to this second, this ain't like sometimes, like I said the other day, you get some guys thinking, oh, this changed now. No, it hasn't. It's the same game. Hell, it's an old game, in fact. Like back in the day, how many times did they talk about, is that the milkman's baby? Or how many times a man might have that woman and take her out, and then, he take her out, do all that stuff, or even marry her and stuff, and go out to work, but then some other guy hopping over the back fence. How much money is he paying? Or the my bad man. The my bad man up in a man's main bed. And he probably, and the side men, most side men, I'm gonna say most side men. There might be an exception, but most side men ain't paying for the 90. Most side men are not paying for the 90. There's something to think about. But most men don't have a concept of that. They never experienced that. It should tell you, let's put it like this. If you gotta break out your wallet, it's a good chance you're non-select. It's a great chance you're non-select. Like I said, there's a select type that they do have to have money. But they also, look, I'm gonna hit y'all with something. They gotta have, some degree of looks. They gotta have some degree of sex appeal too. Some degree. They have to look good. They have to have looks. They have to have looks. Indeed, some of these dudes talking about looks, money, and status and stuff, they don't have a concept. They don't know about Mr. Goodbar. They don't know about that man, or they haven't been that man who women just handing the pussy to. Just handing it. Because the women want to have sex. They just turning the women on sexually. In fact, I just recorded a video for my Patreon. We'll record a few videos for my Patreon for next week. I'm actually going to talk about that. Because a lady friend, she told me some stuff. It blew my mind. I don't know if I want to share. I'll share that there. She told me some stuff. I was like, oh, shit. Damn. So, it's something to think about. A lot of guys, they just don't have a concept of it. And, you don't get mad at the women, but it's really telling you where you at. I'm going to tell you what, and I'll say this. If you gotta spend your money, you ain't at the top of the pyramid. If you got to spend money, you ain't at the top. At best, you might be what I call a mass man. But if you want to be that mass man, it's more than, if you want to be at that level, you got to look good. Your shit got to be sharp all the way around. And even then, women, they not going to get with you quickly. They still make you wait a bit. Meanwhile, that Mr. Goodbar type, shoot, they'll get with him at the bathroom at a party or something like that. He ain't spend shit, you know? That might be the guy, you know, they just keep on standby. Even while they have a man, they'll just keep him on standby. Yeah. But, yeah, most men, they just don't have a concept of it. You know? Yeah. Well, I'm telling y'all what to do so you can get to the highest level. Because that's my perspective. Because I remember this dude. And he had a lot of money. He was telling me all this money he was spending on a woman. I was like, I don't have a concept of that. You spend all that money on a woman? Women be giving that shit up for free. You know? They ain't did shit. But then that's where I was coming from. I don't have a problem saying it. Shoot, if you got somebody, look at me now. If you got somebody who can read faces, like a profiler or a lie detector test, I'll take that. I have no problems taking that. I'm seriously, I'm still trying to think. I say after body game. Like I said, before body game, oh, I was spending that money and everything. But then there was that period I didn't have any money, and I was getting too much. And I was getting too much. I was broke. Didn't have my own space. Didn't have money like that. Shit. Yeah. And I'm going to hit y'all with something deeper. That situation went up until recent years. That shit went up until recent years. So, but then, one thing you just know the nature of women. Women, if they want to have sex with you, they just need a place to do it. They just need a place to do it. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Really think about that. Don't get mad. Like, let me just say, don't get mad or anything. I'm just expressing a reality, okay? Just deal with that, all right? So anyway, I'll get back with y'all. Peace.